Hello and welcome back to the book club. We are back and in person,
Yay!
which we're very excited about. We're now in the office together and we're just really excited to be able to bring back book club properly. Kenzie, tell us a little bit about this book that we're reading.
Awesome. We are reading The Undefended Leader. We put up a poll about a month ago now, really, to see which one you guys wanted to read, and you chose The Undefended Leader. So we have been reading part one of The Undefended Leader, and that's what we're going to be talking a bit about today. What our favourite bits were, what we loved, what challenged us. So
yeah, we're very excited. As Ken said, we've read the first part already. If you haven't started it yet, it's not that long. It's only, I think, 4 chapters in the first bit, so you do have time to catch up. But Kenzie, chapter 1, which was a bit of an intro, bit about, I guess, what leadership is and what that looks like. What stood out to you from that?
Yeah, I loved the illustration of front stage, backstage, and what that looks like in leadership today, and the sustainability of the backstage, and what that looks like, and how we can sustain that backstage, and then how that then leaks out onto our front stage. And if we don't have a good, strong backstage, then our front stage, so the decisions we make, the conversations we have, this won't really work that well because we don't have that solid foundation. But then if we only have that front stage, then we don't really have anything to lead out of. And there's a brilliant quote that I'm actually going to get Helen to list off because I wouldn't be able to say it off by heart.
It's an Andy Stanley quote that we often say, and you may well have heard one, I've said this before, but it goes something like, your gifting has the capability to take you further than your character can sustain you, and that ought to scare you. So it's this idea of, we love to think of it a bit of like a cliff edge, and as you walk out, kind of, you've got your gifting and you kind of think you're on solid ground, but actually if you looked underneath the cliff edge, you'd realise that actually it's kind of dipping in and you're on really shaky ground because your character isn't sustaining you. And I love that it is like the front stage and backstage, and actually the front stage is what we present to people, and the backstage is really, I guess, our souls and what's happening behind the scenes and our home life and our close friendships. For you, Kenzie, what does that look like? Where would you lean towards? Because it says some people lean more towards hiding from the front stage and living in their backstage. Some people live on their front stage and neglect their backstage. Where would you sit with that?
I definitely say I naturally fall to more front stage, so more focusing on externally and how I present myself to people, and that can sometimes neglect the backstage. So I guess being an extrovert, that might aid towards that, and seeing people and having conversations and not giving myself time to rest is definitely a thing that I fall into sometimes. So this book really definitely highlighted that, and the need for that rest and that coming back to who I am and into the places that really feed me is really important, to not just keep going until I burn out, which does happen. So that was just, I think, really a good reminder of why I need to do that, really.
Yeah, definitely. And we were saying, like, it can look like really mundane things, like I was saying, I know I've neglected my backstage when I've been working really hard and I go home and actually the house is a mess and I've forgotten to message someone for their birthday who I really care about, and nothing's really done and my life's a little bit of a mess behind the scenes, but actually the front stage looks great, and just that balance.
100%. So good. What did you like about the power?
The second chapter. So the first chapter was about front stage, backstage. The second one is about power, and I thought it was really interesting because we don't really like to talk about power or think that we have power, especially as Christians. We say God has power, but actually that as leaders, like, we do carry a sense of power and authority and what that can look like. And Simon Walker goes into, I think it's 5 types of different power. So I'm just going to read out what they are and just be thinking, what might this look like for us? So there's personality power, that's kind of the, I guess, charm, or kind of we call that woo sometimes, kind of someone who's really personable, who can actually just kind of persuade people to do what they want, or can kind of talk their way into anything. There's resource power, and that's kind of what someone brings with them, how they can influence decisions. So it might be through skill, it might be through kind of monetary power, that actually they can help with a decision because they can bring some sort of resource. There's experience power, which is basically having been around for years and years. So when you're in a meeting and there's someone who has actually been in the organisation for 20 years and says, oh, we tried that 15 years ago and it didn't work, and you think, okay, well, I'm going to listen to them because I trust their power and their experience. Then there's the expert power, and that's to do with relevant experience, so kind of the expert voice in the room, the person who really knows their stuff, that power. And then finally, there's positional power, which is where you've been given a position of authority and your power is coming from there. And all of us exercise these different powers at different times. It might be that actually if we're young adults just coming into our career, that what we don't have is positional power, but we might actually find ourselves with expert power because maybe, I don't know, we're a bit more tech savvy than the people around us, and so we've got a little bit of that power there. Or maybe we find that we've got personality power. But just this idea of actually being aware of our power and how we use it, because if we don't find ourselves aware of it, then actually it comes out accidentally and we end up kind of controlling things or having more of an influence on decisions than we might actually want to, or as well not harnessing it at all and kind of wondering why we're not being heard. So actually recognising what kind of power we have. Kenzie, out of interest, I'm going to prep you for this, but out of those kind of powers, which one do you think would resonate with you in this situation maybe?
I think the personal power really. I think being a people person, I think that it does definitely resonate with me actually. That is probably in a situation what I would what my power would be. And I think just having that capability to talk to people and listen to people and have good conversations, I think is like this book has kind of taught me that actually that is a power and that does have influence, and that I can take that almost as a power rather than just I'm good at talking to people. So I think that was a really nice reminder. What about you?
I love that recognition. Oh, it's a really good question. I think I was thinking about this in terms of being part of the Onelife team, obviously, and I've been around the team for 5 years, and so I think sometimes the experience power, and in meetings some say, what was it, when we did this 4 years ago, what happened? Because we're quite a new team at the moment, kind of I'm one of the oldest in the team, not eldest, one of the longest standing members of the team. So actually I find that actually if I say, do you know what, we tried that back in the day and it didn't work, then actually that has a real impact. And so actually trying not to shoot things down by saying that as well, I think is just really important. So I found that really interesting actually. But again, it changes for when you're in a different group. It might be different from when we're sat on Onelife to when we're sat with our families. It's completely different, but it's a really great thing to go through. And then the final chapter in this first section of the book, which was called Strategies of Defence, the final strategy was all about control. Kenzie, what did you think about that?
Yeah, I loved this because it was just such a good reminder of, not a reminder, just teaching me actually about how I control situations based on things that have happened in my past and things that have happened in my childhood and my growing up, to actually change how I see situations and how I want them to change. And this will be very different for every single person reading this, and what they take out of this, and you watching this at home, what control you have over a situation and how you try and control a situation into what you would want it to, but definitely it made me think about what has happened and why when I come into a situation maybe I'm slightly uncomfortable or intimidated or just not really my best, what comes up and the responses that I have. So that was just really great really, just to sort of see that, and it was a kind of a light on that, and has made me really look back on what happened, and that situation happened, and okay, so that's the reason that I do this now. So that's just been really helpful in figuring out how to deal with that and why that happens. So that's what I thought about control.
I love that. So actually it's kind of reflecting on previous experience, how that shaped us, and then how then we bring that into situations. And I guess what I loved about that as well, like you said, is kind of how we make it a safe space for ourselves. Like that's really the root of the control. It's not that actually I just love it like this. It's saying, I experienced this and I felt uncomfortable, so therefore I want to control this. Which it's a lot of reflection, isn't it? It's a book where you have to do the work as well. But we are loving this. There is so much in this. We'd really recommend, if you haven't got yourself a copy yet, go for it. It's brilliant. We're going to be reading the next 2 sections over the next month or so. So please do read along with us. We'd love you. Leave your comments below. We want to hear your thoughts as well. And we will see you next time.
Thanks, guys.